Hey, it's Tuesday, it's February the 20th, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe Council meeting. It is 7 o'clock, and could I have a motion to call this meeting to order? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Councillor Brody?
Yeah, I have one on BO3 2024 and BO4 2024.
Okay, so noted. You've had a chance to read the minutes from the previous council meeting on February the 5th. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could I have a motion to receive those minutes? Adopt them as printed. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is we'll go into a public meeting for the Committee of Adjustment. The purpose of the following public meeting and Committee of Adjustment is to give Council and Committee of Adjustment and the general public an opportunity to hear all interested parties with respect to the applications being heard this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. In respect to the Committee of Adjustment applications, only the applicant or a public body can appeal a Committee of Adjustment decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. This must be filed within 20 days from the date of the decision. In respect to the public meeting applications, if a person or public body does not speak if a person or public body does not speak to the application at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the council decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal or be added as a party to appeal of the decision. I'll hurry. To this tribunal. If you wish to be notified of the decision in writing, please submit a written request to the clerk. Yeah. So could I have a motion that the council convene as a Committee of Adjustment at 7:03 p.m. Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, we have a few planning applications. So when your planning application is up, if you'd like to come up to the chairs there, and the microphone button is on the microphone there, just turn that on. All right, the first one up is an application for minor variance A01-2024. The owner's 1974209 Ontario Limited. That's Connie and Mike Vanderhoevel, and it's regarding 2739 Murphy Drive. So I'll turn it over to our planner, Erin Besh, to start.
Thank you, Chair. So the first application before the committee this evening seeks relief from the Township Zoning Bylaw to permit the construction of a 2,152 square meter layer barn on an agricultural parcel of land. Section 5.17 of the bylaw states that no livestock facility shall be erected or expanded unless it complies with the minimum distance separation 2 calculation. So relief from MDS2 has been requested between the proposed chicken barn and one type A land use, which is a residential dwelling in this case. So the proposal is the barn itself is required to have a setback of 321 meters as per the MDS report that was submitted by the applicant. And they are requesting a setback of 261 meters, which is a reduction of 60 meters. So the subject lands themselves are approximately 21 hectares in size, located on the south side of Murphy Drive, west of Denning Road. The lands contain a single detached dwelling, detached garage, and a drive shed. The Davis drain runs east-west across the property, and it is regulated by the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. So you should be able to see on the location map that I have shared the location of the drain and the regulated area as well. So the applicant, again, is seeking to construct a livestock facility to house 3,000 layer hens, in addition to an egg packing and storage area and a covered solid manure storage area. This structure is proposed to be located within a minimum of 30 meters from the side lot line, as is required by the MDS2 calculation, and it will be fed by an existing well on the western side of the subject lands. The structure itself would be accessed via a new driveway from Murphy Drive. So the applicant has advised that the proposed location is preferred as it maintains an appropriate distance to the municipal drain, and it remains outside the regulated area, as well as avoiding associated low-lying areas on the property. So the application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The only comment that I received was from our drainage superintendent, who advised that the structure would be located away from the drain. So that meets any requirements that they have. And the county safety and standards officer also provided a comment that the new barn would be required to have its own municipal 911 address. And that can be applied for at the time of building permit and should be up during the construction and then finalization of the barn structure. I evaluated the application based on the 4 tests of minor variance. The only comment that I will make in regards to the 4 tests is really that the intent of MDS really is that it should be met wherever possible. In certain circumstances, of course, trying to stay away from the municipal drain and, maximizing agricultural lands and things of that nature. Certainly in this case, the impact of the reduction is fairly minor in nature. So I am supportive of the application this evening. So my recommendation is that the minor variance for A01 2024 be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak against this application? Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak for this application? Are there any questions, comments from council? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that the application for minor variance A01-2024 that requests relief from section 5.17 of the Adelaide Metcalfe zoning bylaw to permit an MDS2 setback of 261 meters be granted. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, the next application up is application for consent B01-2024. The owner W. DeBoer Incorporated, and the agent is Ashley Podlinski from Mackenzie Lake Lawyers, and it's regarding 2719 Napperton Drive. And I'll turn this over again to our planner, Erin Besh.
Thank you again, Chair. So the purpose of this application is to permit the severance of a residence from a larger farm parcel, which has been deemed surplus to the needs of the farming operation. In addition to the consent application, the applicant has also provided a rezoning application to go along with it. Typically, we would have the consent first and the rezoning in a subsequent meeting, but we are tackling both of those today. So similar to how we've dealt with it in the past, of course, the Committee of Adjustment and the council are 2 separate bodies, but I will give my reports together. So the subject property itself is approximately 19.1 hectares in size. The lands to be severed have a lot width of approximately 61 meters and a lot area of 0.73 hectares. The remnant farm parcels would be approximately 18.4 hectares in size after the residential lot has been created. So the lands proposed to be severed contain an existing single detached dwelling constructed at least 50 years ago. It is privately serviced with an individual septic system and well. The lands also contain a shed which is used for personal storage purposes. The lands to be retained, the remnant farm parcel, contain agricultural land in crop production and a portion of the Curry Drain, which is regulated by the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. The aerial photo that is attached to my report shows a barn on the lands to be retained. However, the applicant has indicated that that has been removed. The purpose of the rezoning application is to rezone the severed portion from the general agricultural zone to the surplus dwelling zone to recognize the residential use and limit the range of permitted uses. Additionally, the application seeks to rezone the retained lot from general agriculture to agriculture only AO zone to prohibit new residential dwellings on the lands in the future. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. I did receive a number of comments from our departments and agencies. The Township Chief Building Official advised that the septic system is to be confirmed to be wholly located on the severed portion so that it remains with the dwelling, and that the hydro service for the dwelling be confirmed to be wholly located on the parcel being severed. The county engineer advised that the owner will be required to dedicate lands up to 15 meters from the center line of Napperton Drive across both the severed and retained parcels to be provided to the County of Middlesex for road widening purposes. The drainage superintendent advised that the property is within the watershed of the Curry Drain. If the severance is approved, the applicants will need to apply for a drainage reapportionment at the cost of the applicant. The Middlesex County Safety and Standards Officer advised that the residential lot shall retain the municipal 911 address of 2719 Napperton, and the lands to be retained, being the remnant farm parcel, are to be assigned a new municipal 911 number. I did not receive any comments from the public during our public circulation process. So the application itself, I am satisfied that the farm consolidation has been achieved. The subject property forms part of a farming operation with at least one other farm holding and one additional farm dwelling. The surplus dwelling located on the lands is at least 10 years old, so that criteria of the official plan is satisfied. Further, the applicant has indicated that the dwelling is in good condition, is currently occupied. The septic system and well have been identified to be wholly contained on the lands to be severed, and I'm satisfied that the configuration of the severed lot is appropriate. Again, to facilitate the proposed severance, the rezoning requirements stand as with every surplus farm dwelling severance. I am supportive of the rezoning application that has been submitted. I do not have any additions to it. There's no site-specific zones that are required. So I'm supportive of the general zones being applied in this situation. So my recommendation this evening is for application for consent B01 to be approved, subject to the 13 conditions that I have indicated in my report. They're all standard surplus farm dwelling severance conditions, with the addition that the number 5, that the land dedication for Napperton Drive is included. And I did maintain the zoning bylaw amendment as one of the conditions. Obviously, it'll be easily satisfied through this process, but I want to make sure that if for some reason the zoning bylaw, the zoning amendment failed, that the consent would also therefore fail. So I'm open to any questions that the committee may have this evening.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak against this application? Anyone in the gallery, including you, Ashley, would like to speak for the application? No additional comments? Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, seeing none, I'm not going to read those 13 conditions that councillors, so you all have them in front of you. So we have a recommendation that application for consent B01-2024 submitted under section 53 of the Planning Act be granted, subject to the 13 following conditions. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is application for consent B 022024, and the owner is Adwood Farms, Tony Van Art. And Ashley's again the agent. That's handy, 2 on one night. That's good. And I'll turn this over to Aaron Besh, our planner again.
Thank you, Chair. So the next application before committee this evening looks to sever a parcel of land with a frontage of approximately 311 meters along Cuddy Drive and an area of 41.46 hectares from an existing farm parcel comprised of 82.93 hectares. So we sort of classify this type of severance as a farm split. It meets the provisions in our official plan and zoning bylaw, so we just deem it a farm split. The severance itself has been proposed for succession planning purposes. So the proposed lands to be severed and lands to be retained, the applicant is requesting 50%, 50%, exactly in half. The proposed lands to be severed are vacant and currently in agricultural production, with a small portion of woodlot at the southern end, which has been identified as significant woodland under the Middlesex Natural Heritage System study. These lands do not appear to have individual access off of Cuddy Drive, and this is under the road authority of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe. The proposed lands to be retained contain a single detached dwelling. It is privately serviced with a septic system and well. There's also a barn as well as a wind turbine on this property. The remainder of the land is in agricultural production. There is a segment of the Lenting Drain, which is located to the west of the dwelling and is regulated by a Sauble Bayfield Conservation Authority. So the committee this evening will be familiar with this property. We did just have a minor variance application, which was denied in the January 2024 at the meeting on that date. The applicants have since revised the location of the proposed livestock facility, and it does meet the required MDS2 setbacks. They've applied for a building permit to construct the facility. I did review the updated site plan or updated location of the barn, and it is somewhat, in proximity to the proposed lot line. The MDS2 report that was supplied by the applicant indicated a minimum setback of 30 meters to the nearest lot line. So I did ask for confirmation from the applicant that since they are moving ahead with the construction of the facility at this time, just ensuring that that structure meets the 30 meters. And I have also included it as a condition of the application as well. So it was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. Township's Public Works Manager advised that the lands to be severed will need a separate entrance installed to the specifications of the township. Our drainage superintendent again advised that the lands are within the watershed of the Lenting Drain. And if approved, the applicant will be required to have a drainage apportionment by the township's engineer, and this will be at the cost of the applicant. Enbridge Gas indicated that there are service lines in the area which may or may not be affected by the proposed severance. Should they be impacted, it would be at the cost of the landowner to terminate the gas service and relocate it according to the new property lines. This county safety and standards officer provided 2 comments. Number one, that the lands that include the existing dwelling and barns should retain the municipal 911 act.
We've lost you, Aaron. Your mouth's moving, but we're not hearing anything. Sorry.
Any luck?
You're back.
I'm so sorry. Can I send a really angry text message to my husband to get off the internet?
Oh, I'm sorry. She didn't hear that. I thought he was doing the dishes, Aaron. Where did we leave? We left about having to have a road go in or something, or a laneway. Or are you a little
Okay.
farther down than that?
The township's public works manager.
Yeah, that's where we were.
The lands to be severed will need a separate entrance. Our drainage superintendent advised that a drainage reapportionment will be required. and that cost is to be borne by the applicant. Enbridge Gas there are service lines in the area, and if these service lines are impacted by the severance, that it is up to the applicant to pay to terminate the gas line and relocate according to the new property lines. County Safety and Standards Officer, the property that contains the existing dwelling and the barn is to retain the municipal 911 address of 1521 Cuddy Drive, and that the new property would be assigned a new 911 address, and that is to be installed at the new entrance of the property. I did analyze the application against our policies. Of course, the minimum farm lot size is 40 hectares in the official plan and in the zoning bylaw, which of course both of these lots would maintain. So I am satisfied that all of the policies and our regulations have been met. So I'm recommending approval of the application, subject to 9 conditions. All standard severance conditions with the addition of number 4, that the layer barn be confirmed to be located a minimum of 30 meters from the lot line between the severed and retained lands. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak against this application? Is there anyone, including Ashley, who wants to speak for the application or anything further to add? Okay, thank you. All right, then. I'm not going to read the 9 conditions as I didn't in the past. We have a recommendation that the application for consent B02-2024 submitted under Section 53 of the Planning Act be granted, subject to the 9 conditions you have in front of you. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Kingma, second by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The last one. Okay, and the last one up is the application for consent B03-2024 and B04-2024, owner Michael and Angela Brody, and it's regarding 1569 Murphy Drive. And I'll turn this over to you again, Erin. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully you can hear me the entire time. So this next application before committee is a surplus farm dwelling severance once more. They are looking to sever a lot that is 74 meters in width, with that being the frontage, and a lot area of 0.63 hectares in size. In order to facilitate this severance, the applicant has also submitted a request for easement, which would establish an access easement over the lands to be retained in favor of the lands to be severed for access to an existing well. The lands proposed to be severed contain an existing single detached dwelling constructed around 1900. It is privately serviced with individual septic and well, and there's also a grain bin on the property. The applicant advised that there is difficulty in this area to accessing water. So relocation of the well is likely not possible. So they are requesting an easement across the lands to be retained in favor of the lands to be severed, basically extending from the new residential lot to where the well is located. The lands proposed to be retained being the remnant farm parcel containing agricultural land and crop production, and appears to already have an existing access from Murphy Drive. There is a small portion of significant woodland and wetland on the southern end of the property, and it is largely regulated by the St. Clair Region Conservation. I circulated the application as per the requirements of the Planning Act. Chief Building Official advised that the septic system will need confirmation that it is wholly contained on the severed portion. The hydro service for the dwelling must also be confirmed to be located wholly on the parcel being severed. The Township Public Works Manager advised of no concerns as both properties appear to have accesses. The Middlesex County Safety and Standards Officer, similar to all of our surplus farm dwellings, the house is to retain the municipal 911 address, and the farmland is to be assigned a new 911. Enbridge Gas also advised that there are service lines in the area. Should the proposed severance impact these services, it is up to the applicant and at full cost of the applicant to relocate this line. I did not receive any comments from the public. So I'm satisfied that farm consolidation has been achieved. Surplus farm dwelling is located on the land proposed to be, the surplus dwelling was constructed in 1900, therefore meeting the criteria of being constructed at least 10 years prior to the date of the severance. The applicant has advised that the dwelling is in good condition and is currently occupied, and I'm satisfied that the dimensions of the land is appropriate. The lands, of course, will require a rezoning application to limit the types of uses on the residential dwelling property and to prohibit new residential dwellings on the farmlands. I'm also satisfied that in this situation, an easement is appropriate to allow continued use of the existing well, and that I have recommended an easement be approved as part of the conditions this evening. So my recommendation this evening is for approval, subject first to 11 conditions, all standard for surplus farm dwellings, except for number 8, which is the requirement that an access easement be established. And further, that for consent B04, it be granted as well, subject to the 5 conditions outlined in my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to speak against this application? And is there anyone that wishes to speak for this application? I guess he's left the room. Okay, seeing that, we don't have any, is there any discussion from council? I don't think so. Okay, just want to note that under condition number 9, it should read Murphy Drive, not Cuddy Drive. So, with that amendment, that the application for consent B03-2024 submitted under section 53 of the Planning Act be granted, subject to the 11 conditions as stated. Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Yeah. Further, we have a recommendation that the application for consent B04-2024 submitted under section 53 of the Planning Act be granted, subject to the 5 conditions that follow that. Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we have a recommendation that council adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 7:28 p.m. Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is our public meeting. And we have a recommendation that council convene into public meeting at 7:28 p.m. Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So this section is in reference to the zoning bylaws. So I'll turn 6A over to you, Erin, to speak to the application for zoning bylaw Z012024, owner BVA Farms, and the agent is John Van Aert, and it's regarding 7002 Sexton Road.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. So the purpose of this application is to allow the applicant's tenant to continue to live in the existing dwelling while a new dwelling is being built, whereas a bylaw would normally only permit one dwelling to be located on the subject lands. The existing residence would be removed upon the expiration of the 2-year period or the occupancy of the new single detached dwelling, whichever occurs first. The subject lands themselves are approximately 42 hectares in size. There's frontage along both Sexton as well as Langan Drive. The lands contain a single detached dwelling, 2 sheds and a grain bin, and the remainder of the land is in agricultural production. So the applicant is proposing to construct a second single detached dwelling to be located directly behind the existing dwelling. The approximate location is indicated on the location map that I have shared. And to facilitate this construction, the subject application proposes to amend the zoning to include a temporary use provision, T-19, for a maximum period of 2 years or occupancy of the new dwelling, whichever occurs first. At the date of temporary bylaw expiration, the lands would return to the underlying general agricultural zone. A rezoning of this nature also requires the applicant to enter into a temporary use agreement with the township and provide a security deposit of $10,000, which is returned upon the removal of the original dwelling. So temporary use bylaws are certainly promoted throughout the Planning Act. It's permitted within the county official plan or local official plan. You know, there is not a whole lot of policy that speaks to any sort of requirements for temporary use bylaws. It's a pretty broad permission for municipalities to use. So this type of temporary use is one that we see quite often, especially in the agricultural area. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The chief building official advised that a $10,000 deposit will be required and that the existing dwelling would need to be removed 90 days from occupancy of the new dwelling. The drainage superintendent advised that there is no drainage reassessment or anything on or around the property, and no other comments or concerns were received. So planning staff are satisfied that the subject application conforms to our official plan, and the new dwelling would appear to meet the requirements of the general agricultural zone. I have drafted a bylaw for council's consideration this evening. So my recommendation is that Z01 2024 be approved and given 3 readings as the applicant has provided the security and the agreement has been completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Is there anybody that would like to speak to this application in the gallery? Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that application for zoning bylaw amendment Z01 2024 be approved and given 3 readings as the applicant has provided the $10,000 security deposit and the temporary use agreement has been completed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Aaron, you're up again. 6B, application for zoning bylaw amendment Z02 2024, and the owner is W. DeBoer Incorporated. And it's in reference to 2719 Napperton Drive.
Thank you, Chair. We have gone through my severance application already. I have drafted a bylaw for council's consideration this evening. As I previously stated, there is no site-specific requirements, so we would be looking at a rezoning from general agriculture to surplus dwelling and agriculture only. So I'm available if council has any questions about the implementing bylaw.
Any questions for Aaron? Any comments from the gallery? Okay, seeing none, we have a recommendation that the application for zoning bylaw amendment Z02 2024 be approved and given 3 readings. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, could I have a motion that council adjourn the public meeting at 7:33 p.m. and reconvene into a regular session of council? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, so if you want to sneak out, anybody can. It's not going to be much more exciting things, I don't think. Yeah, thank you for coming. Okay, so next up we have 7A. We have a delegation. We have Inspector Ross Stewart, the detachment commander for Middlesex Detachment from the Ontario Provincial Police. So come on up and just push the button on the microphone and everybody will be able to hear you. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with council again. and to have the opportunity to provide you with a summary of what, from a policing, law enforcement standpoint has happened within the community over the course of the 2023 calendar year. So I would like to go through, I believe council's been provided with the report, some highlights and then some other items that I would like to touch on if I could over the next few minutes. Very broadly from a call for service standpoint, this would include both calls to the police received into our communication center, as well as proactive work that our officers are doing. We've actually seen quite a dramatic decrease in calls for service year over year over the last number of years. For 2023, a total of 1,485 calls for service. This decrease is actually even more noteworthy given the proactive enforcement increase in numbers that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. So this is very good news from my standpoint as it relates to the community. First, I would like to talk about the category that includes violent crime. This is arguably the items that are of greatest concern to any municipality, and rightly so. And you will see in the report that I've provided, over the course of 2023, we had 5 calls for service that fall within the violent crime index, one of which was a sexual assault, 4 of which were classified as assaults. And what I can tell you about each of these is that these are domestic related. I won't go into details because many of them are before the courts, but these are domestic related incidents where there is no ongoing concern in relation to public safety. One of the things that I will note, and I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead here into this calendar year, but we did unfortunately have a very serious incident towards the beginning of the year involving homicide within the community. Again, that is before the courts, but I can assure council that our officers were able to make a very quick arrest in that, and there was a minimal threat to public safety at that time. And in fact, I would suggest no threat to public safety given the timing of the arrest, which was very rapid. As it relates to violent crime, I do want to talk just very briefly about one of the programs that the OPP has put in place provincially. I think over the last year or so, and in fairness, probably stemming in part from the death of Constable Prashala out in Haldimand County, there's been a lot of conversation in the media and in public in relation to violent offenders being out on bail and reoffending. I think it's fair that probably all of us are aware that this is a concern that's been going on. Organizationally, from an OPP standpoint, we created what we have referred to as our Offender Management Apprehension Program. This is a program that, yes, applies to Adelaide Metcalfe, but actually there's nobody living here that's currently within that program. But essentially what it does is it allows us to have a heightened level of awareness as to who is in the community on judicial release, and in particular for violent related crime and crimes relating to firearms. Throughout Middlesex County, there's actually 41 offenders on that list that we monitor on an ongoing basis. That includes door knocks, for example, to make sure they're abiding by their conditions. And it's very effective at not only creating an environment where those that are on judicial release understand that they're being monitored, but also from a consequence standpoint, when someone's breaching their conditions, they're immediately back before the courts. I think that's important for the community here to understand, even though there's nobody within that program. Certainly that would immediately apply if someone were to fall under that category within Adelaide Metcalfe. Ultimately, that does relate to public safety throughout this community, though, because we are monitoring folks throughout the county and frankly throughout the province. From a property crime standpoint, what I feel is some good news. You will see in the breakdown that I provided that over the course of the calendar year, there was a total of 6 break and enters, which is a small increase from last year. However, we did see a decrease in our, what we classify as a theft over, and the benchmark for being under or over is $5,000. Quite typically, these are our large B&Es or more likely stolen vehicles. So we've seen quite a noticeable decrease in theft overs, 35% decrease. And our theft unders again down by 33%. Overall, our property related crime within the municipality for 2023 is down 30% from the previous year. So good news for sure. One of the things that we are trying to address is our frauds. Unfortunately, frauds are something that are quite common regardless of where you live, whatever the community is. And we do see that at times it's some of the older folks within the community that are targeted as a result. So our community service officer, Constable Hare, is very active in doing community presentations. In fact, has another one scheduled for tomorrow evening to really focus in on making people aware of things like grandparent scams, which is one of the popular ones right now, as well as, of course, the CRA scams that, again, we're probably all very familiar with. From a drug-related crime standpoint, in 2022, there was 3 incidents relating to drugs within the municipality, but in 2023, we actually didn't have any, which is good news. We do have what we call our community street crime unit that focuses both on property-related crime as well as drug-related crime. And again, I'll speak just very briefly about the work they've done within the overall county, because this is one of those things that has a ripple effect upon each of the municipalities. From an enforcement standpoint, when we put some of the prolific offenders in relation to property or drug-related crime in jail, we do see a drop in property crime, not only throughout the county, but in multiple counties. These folks will move from county to county, municipality to municipality. So when I speak about some of the numbers that our street crime unit was involved in during the 2023 year, although we don't have a tremendous amount of property crime within this municipality, that work is very important in keeping those numbers low. So over the course of that calendar year, our street crime unit was engaged in 136 different occurrences throughout the county, resulting in a total of 98 search warrants being executed, 119 people charged, and just under 1,000 criminal charges being laid for drug and property related offenses. So that is a very robust program that we have in Middlesex. And again, no question that it benefits this municipality, even though property crime is not high. And of course, they're actively involved in the drug subculture as well, and in addressing that. Next, I would like to speak just a little bit about traffic enforcement and some of the traffic related numbers. This is something that I think at our last meeting I talked about that I'm very passionate about and is very important to me, given my former role as the regional traffic manager. Some good news, our proactive enforcement and education by our officers is also up within Adelaide Metcalfe over the calendar year of 2023. Up by 30%. So a total number of tickets laid within this municipality for 2023, 249, which is an increase from 181 in the previous year for a 38% increase. Our proactive ride enforcement within the municipality, again, up 81% year over year, which is wonderful news. 27 instances in 2022, up to 49 separate ride occurrences during the 2023 calendar year. And now we've also seen an increase in impaired driving instances, which frankly, when I see enforcement going up, which means more traffic stops, more interactions with drivers, as well as more proactive ride, my expectation is that we would be arresting more impaired drivers. Unfortunately, if we arrest an impaired driver at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, I'm no longer surprised. That is just sort of the reality of the world that we live in. we are quite accustomed to arresting someone for impaired driving any time of the day, any day of the week. That's the reality of it, and that's why enforcement and education is so important, including those proactive rides. So if you scratch your head a little bit and you see officers out doing ride at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, that's the reason why, because we know it's effective. One of the things that we do though is we analyze all of our collision data, and we analyze all of our impaired driving and our suspensions, all of that data, in order for our officers to be very focused on where they do their enforcement efforts. It's fine to send officers out to do ride or to do traffic related enforcement, but if we can utilize and leverage analytics to tell us where the most number of those cases are happening, that allows us to be more effective. And so that's something that we do on a regular basis, usually using our detachment analysts to provide us with that information. And it's very effective. Again, though, speaking from the standpoint of the benefit overall in the county, I think everyone can appreciate how pulling an impaired driver off the road in Thames Center has a positive impact on this municipality if the person's on their way to Sarnia across Egremont Road. If we can get that person off the road, or if they get a ticket and to get them to slow down a little bit, that absolutely impacts traffic safety within this municipality as well. So when I talk about the increase here in Adelaide Metcalfe, and I look at, okay, what have we done across Middlesex County? 51% increase year over year in the number of traffic tickets that we laid. And we're talking big numbers when, like, even with 51%, you know, it's an increase from just over 7,000 tickets in 2022 to just over 10,500 tickets. Like, that's a pretty dramatic increase that our officers have been doing in Middlesex County over the course of the last calendar year. So a lot of really important work. From a ride standpoint, an increase of 52% across the county. 642 in 2022, up to just under 1,977 in 2023. So again, when we have that type of visibility going on, that's on average 3 rides every single day somewhere in the county. That is some very good news, I think, for every one of the municipalities and the county as a whole, and frankly, for our neighboring counties as well. So, and those are numbers that we have seen consistently across the province in other counties as well. We did see a fairly dramatic increase in fatal collisions over the 2022 calendar year across the province. And so we really did organizationally put a push on to, let's ramp our enforcement up, get it back to pre-COVID levels, and that proactive work and the education that goes along with it, I think is being effective, as we have seen a decrease in fatal collisions for the most part over the last 12 to 14 months. The last thing that I would like to speak about is our collision data for Adelaide Metcalfe. Now, we did see an increase for 2023. 112, what we would classify as a property damage collision, so where a vehicle's damaged but nobody's hurt. 112 in 2023 versus 94 in 2022. So a little bit of an increase there. We did see our non-fatal injury collisions decrease marginally from 19 to 16. But unfortunately, we also saw an increase in our fatal collisions within the municipality. And there was 2 of those in 2023, as you're probably aware. What I can tell you about injury-related collisions and fatal collisions from my time overseeing our traffic program for West Region and the 13 detachments located within the West, is that almost without exception, fatal collisions are preventable. We look at what we call the big 4: speeding, seatbelt use, distracted driving, and impaired driving as the 4 factors that statistically we know one or multiple of those factors are involved in almost every fatal collision that occurs. Not all, but almost. In the ones where it's not a factor, we quite often will see things that could have been done better, learning points that could have prevented it. So when I speak to the two fatal collisions that unfortunately we had within the municipality in 2023, one was on Kerwood Road where an individual failed to stop for a stop sign and T-boned the vehicle that had the right of way, resulting in a fatality. Preventable. Had the person been driving appropriately and stopped for the stop sign, the collision never occurs. The second in October, I only stress October because it's dark out early, as we know, on Egremont Drive where a cyclist was struck, unfortunately, by vehicle. It's a horrible and very regrettable incident. The learning point from that would be, to ensure that cyclists are using lights and reflectors on their bike. Don't be dressed all in black clothing. Do something when you're riding through an area with zero artificial lighting to make yourself just a little bit more visible to the cars that are coming. And that's not meant as a criticism of the cyclists. It's just to demonstrate the point that these things most times are avoidable if we can. So overall, that's my report for today, pending any questions or comments that council might have. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That was very informative. Does anybody have any questions? If I may, I do have one ask.
Sure.
We've had, nothing specific that I can say this A happened or B happened, but we've had some complaints from some of the residents in Kerwood, thinking that there's maybe some activity going on in the Kerwood, parking lot that's not something we would support or be in favor of. So
Okay.
maybe, during your patrols, you could have them, maybe sit in the parking lot there for a little bit. I'm sure they'll catch a speeder or two going through there because
Absolutely.
people seem to only know it's a stop or go. So yeah, if that's my only ask is if they could maybe add that onto their patrols. And if there are people that are not from the area and they're in there doing things they shouldn't be doing, that may act as a deterrent.
Sure. Any
So-
specific location, Madam Mayor?
The park, the actual
the park?
Kerwood Park, yes, yeah. There's a pavilion there and it's the parking lot seems to be the area of concern.
Nighttime, daytime,
Anytime,
anytime?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For transactional things apparently. So we'll leave it at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep,
of criminal nature, I guess we'll leave it.
sure.
Okay, is there anything else for Inspector? Yep, go ahead, Maureen.
Chair, thank you. To Ross, thank you so much for your willingness to support us a few weeks ago when we were without a bylaw officer in a pretty tough situation. You were very easy to work with. So I wanted to say thank you. I appreciate all the support that the OPP provides the township. The other thing I just did want to mention, because I heard it emphasized again tonight, you talked about fraud and cybersecurity and trying to help folks recognize these situations. So the last time we had you here, I believe it was in November, December, council raised that as a question. We've been working with the library, Middlesex County Library, to put together a seminar, whether it's within Adelaide Metcalfe or somewhere nearby, to provide cybersecurity related training to our seniors. So I just want to touch on that the library is working on that.
Great.
Good,
No,
thank
it's my
you.
pleasure. Thank you. And by all means, sincerely, when those those issues arise, don't hesitate to reach out. That's what I'm here for. That's why this is really important, so that you feel comfortable, you know who I am, and you feel comfortable coming to me. So thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. That's for sure. And I think it's safe to say Adelaide Metcalfe is a pretty safe community. It's still troubling when you see domestic abuse. I mean, it's not a large number, but it should be no number.
Agreed.
And I'm happy that that's not any, threat to public safety, but it is still something that everybody needs to be aware of out there. And yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Okay, so thanks again for coming and
you.
we'll see you soon.
My
It's
pleasure.
always good when it's a goodwill visit, so we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Thanks so much. Take care.
yeah, thank you. Safe drive. Okay, next up under correspondence, upcoming conferences, seminars and meetings. Our next council meeting will be March the 4th at 7 p.m., followed by the following council meeting that'll look after planning on Monday, March the 18th, also at 7 p.m. Under recommended readings, we have CC number 1, the Middlesex London Health Unit, the Board of Directors meeting summary from January the 18th, 2024. Middlesex County Council meeting highlights, February 13th, 2024. And I just want to add that it was not in the council highlights, but Councillor Kingma had reached out to me and asked for some discussion around the county loan program. So it has not formally been passed yet, but if anybody has any input, comments, criticisms, please feel free to email those to me before the next county council meeting, and I'll make sure those are put forward. CC number 3, Asabo Bayfield Conservation Authority, the Board of Directors meeting minutes from December the 14th. CC number 4, resolution Middlesex Center, council member appointed to the Police Services Board, so their Deputy Mayor John Brennan has been appointed. Action required, CC number 5. We have a resolution from the City of Brantford in reference to reliable and accessible public rail transit. CC number 6, a resolution requesting support from the City of Hamilton, support the Ontario Energy Board to end the gas pipeline subsidy. CC number 7, a resolution from the County of Renfrew regarding affordability of water and wastewater systems. CC number 8, a resolution for the municipality of Calvin, the National Strategy for Firefighting. CC number 9, a resolution from the town of Petrolia, a return to the combined Roma and Agra conferences. Councillor Kingman? We're all on the same page.
I like to champion lost causes, so I'll support this one.
I think that's a very good idea. Is there anyone that would like to second that? So Councillor Kingma supports, we support CC number 9, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. I think maybe it's not appropriate for me to comment, but I think in light of budgets going up everywhere around municipalities, I think that it's prudent to look for opportunities to save costs. That's for sure. Okay, so could I have a resolution, or I'm sorry, could I have a motion to accept CC number 1, to accept and file CC number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is 9A, staff reports, the tile loan rating bylaw regarding Seldom Rest Family Farms, and I'll turn it over to our treasurer, Johnny Pereira.
Thank you, Mayor Clerk. Through the council. Yeah, this brief report here is just highlighting the standardized process of the next stage of the to approve the rating bylaw of the loan for David Bolton of Seldom Rest Family Farms Limited. So back on January 15th, council approved the tile loan application. Since then, an inspection was completed by our drainage inspector, and all documents have been prepared for submission. Staff is recommending the approval of the bylaw and direction to sign and authorize the tile drain debenture and offer to sell documents to be submitted to OMAFRA. The recommendation is to approve the report and bylaw as presented. I do just want to speak on briefly on a couple items that was brought up in the last council meeting about tile loans. I did reach out to OMAFRA about the $50,000 limit, annual limit. They did mention that occasionally they do receive some reports, but there is a unnamed body that actually has put through a request to make some changes, but OMAFRA has not heard anything at this time. The additional item I want to speak on was the loan continuation piece. So $50,000 is the annual max that you can receive through this program. There is a potential to receive more than that, but it has to be based on the province's fiscal year. For example, if you had a tile project that was gonna cost $200,000, the 75% max gets that to $150,000 project. So you would have to resubmit a loan or an application to the municipality in each year to get $50,000. So to reach your maximum, it would span 3 years to get it. So those are currently the terms.
Sorry, just for
unfortunately.
clarification, 3 years on the same tile project.
Correct.
So you could do 150 over the 3 years, 50
You would
a
have to
year
reapply
each year.
each year.
Is there a deadline for application?
It would have to fall within the
The calendar year?
the fiscal year of the province, which is April 1st to March 31st.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Do we know, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, do we know how long it's been 50,000? Has it been that for a long, long time? Is it? Yeah, because you would know. 2004, eh? Okay. Okay. Okay, any other discussion or comments or questions for Johnny? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that the proposed tile drainage loan rating bylaw to lend $50,000 to Seldom Rest Family Farms Limited for a term of 10 years at 6% be approved. And further that the mayor and treasurer be authorized to sign the tile drain debenture and the offer to sell documents and submit them to a MAFRA. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up, Johnny, you're up again for the dog tag program.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the council. This report is just outlining a minor change, a proposed change to the program. So as you're aware, the current program was introduced in 2021, which was built around a 3-year tagging cycle. So tags would be valid for 3 years, and then the township would issue a new tag once those expire. Licenses were still billed annually. So the township would still invoice those with the dog annually. So it didn't affect billing. It was just a physical tag would expire after 3 years. And those tags were really built around the door-to-door service. So they would be going to each resident, selling the tags and identifying if there was a dog there or not. So in 2023, after the Glencoe Animal Shelter closed due to the retirement, the township transitioned to the London Middlesex Humane Society. So our current agreement does not include door-to-door tagging. So as part of the 2024 budget, staff does look for operational efficiencies, and the dog tag program was highlighted as one of those. So staff is recommending removing the 3-year tagging cycle and go to a permanent tag. So the bill, again, billing won't change. It would still be the annual invoice going out. The issue is just having a tag that expires after 3 years without the door-to-door tagging really provides no value to the program except increasing costs to the township. So every 3 years, the township would, under the old program, have to spend about $500 to buy new tags. But the significant cost comes in administrative time to update the system, match everything up, and then mail those out. So we also see actually a waste as well. We are stuck with a bunch of tags that we now have to throw out because there's an expiry on there. We're a permanent tagging system. Every tag we buy can be used as it wouldn't expire. Also, as outlined in the report, there would be no savings realized in 2024 as we do need to buy the tags anyway this year as the old ones are expired. We will be able to realize savings in future budget years. So the recommendation is to approve the report as presented, but we have to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Johnny? Go ahead, Councillor Kingma.
Thank you, Johnny. Through the mayor to you, I wonder what kind of challenges we could expect if we just scrap the whole program.
Through the mayor to Councillor Kingma. Yeah, great question. It's something that's really been tossed around throughout the county. Removing the program does put the burden on the tax base, as currently the program is picking up about $12,000 to the users. By going to the tax base, there's an argument to be made that it does it allows for everyone, even those people who maybe are not getting the tags when they should be. So it may spread those costs equally. At the same time, many municipalities in the county opted for that due to the efficiencies, highlighting the administrative cost is significant for administering the dog tag program. I see it in a lot of the larger communities, say Sarnia, Chatham, and even City of London, they still do the tagging. I think it's about finding a way to administer the program efficiently, so you can still kind of go after the council mindset of a user pay system. But there's definitely an argument for both sides of that.
I might add, in the city of London, they're actually the bylaw officers that do everything. You know, they may just randomly stop you and ask if your dog has a tag, and you better have a good story if you don't have one. So, yeah. To follow up, Councillor Kingman?
Yeah, thank you. So it might be worthwhile then if we were to try to calculate the value of staff time that gets put into this administratively and see, you know, maybe in a year or two, probably 2 years, whether we can change course at that point. It'd be really interesting to see a more fulsome idea of what time we're accruing to this program.
Councillor Brody?
Through Mayor Suda, Johnny, that's basically what I was gonna say. Is it really worth the, we break down, we're only getting 12,000, it's probably costing us 8, right? Or more, like,
Yeah, because how are you doing, collect, like, are you billing out to each, the people that you have had on record historically, or just adding it to property taxes? You know, because we can't have our roads guys driving around being the bylaw officers for the dogs, or maybe we could, I don't know.
Yeah, great question. So we do advertise in the newsletters about the how they are required in the township. Everyone we have on file on the animal licensing system, we reissue the invoice annually, and they provide payment that way. If we don't receive payment, it is then collected in the same manner of taxes. Just speaking to those numbers quickly. So the current contract with the Humane Society does cost the township about $17,000. So we do collect around 12,000 from those dog owners. So the impact to the tax base currently in 2024, based on those projections, we are seeing a department deficit, as in the general tax base is picking up about $5,400. Where if we removed the licensing program altogether, we would need to pick up $17,000 from the tax base. So knowing 1% is about $45,000, $12,000, again, small municipality, that is a big piece. So it was definitely something talked about before, understanding the challenges in bringing the 2024 budget forward. That likely would have compounded the issue this year.
Okay, thanks, Johnny. I might add that whoever's on the budget committee for this year, the new people, that's an area that we can look at then as well. And the fee that we're paying to Middlesex, what's it called? Humane Society, thank you, is 17,000, but I think that gets cat coverage too, doesn't it? It's not just dogs, that's the whole, or is it, can you specify or?
To the mayor, it program is mostly dogs, although they have provided expertise on the on cat situation, specific cat situation. But the program is for dogs.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Okay. Anything else on this? And as I said, it's something we can look at the budget time next year. We maybe have some other numbers to kick around. And staff hours, to your point, Garrett. All right, so we have a recommendation that council approve the transition to a permanent dog tag program. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Kingma, seconded by Counselor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is 9C on the agenda, the Occupational Health and Safety Legal Compliance Evaluation. It's an implementation report, and I'll turn it over to our Public Works Manager, Coulter Cahill, and our Fire Chief, Dan Parker.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clark. Tonight, our report is prepared by myself, Dan Parker, the Fire Chief, and Nicole Lewis, our Corporate Support Specialist. The Township of Adelaide Metcalfe has had a joint health and safety committee that includes the fire department, public works department, and office department. In 2023, the municipal budget council allocated funds to undertake a full occupational health and safety legal compliance evaluation. The evaluation that took place was a systematic and documented process, reviewing records, documents, observation of site conditions, and worker activity. The fire hall, office, and both public works facilities were observed through this process. Staff obtained 3 written quotes in the spring of 2023 to procure a qualified company. Through this process, Workplace Safety and Prevention Services was the successful proponent. On October 16th, 2023, council received the Occupational Health and Safety Legal Compliance Evaluation presentation from WSPS at the regular council meeting. Staff committed to bring forward a list of recommendations through the health and safety evaluation and an implementation plan to achieve these. Attached to this report is the implementation plan for the fire department and one for the public works and office department. This implementation plan identifies each recommendation and a plan of action for each. The implementation plan is anticipated to be completed by the end of this year and kept up in the years to come. Any recommendations and their associated implementation plan that require resources beyond the regular budget cycle will be brought forward to council as part of budget processes. The recommendation is below, but I will open it up to any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Coulter. Are there any questions on this occupational health and safety report? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that council receive the occupational health and safety legal compliance implementation report for information. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next up is 9D on the agenda, the Community Improvement Plan, the 2023 review and 2024 program launch. And I'll turn it over to our CAO, Morgan Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and through you to council. So council saw the meat and potatoes of the report at the last council meeting on February 5th, I think it was. Council just wanted to better understand essentially the pros and cons of an open intake model versus a deadline driven model. I guess I'd start with a little bit of context for the township that we really have only had one year of the CIP program in place, being in 2023, that we haven't, the original or the initial CIP program was designed to essentially get our feet wet in terms of funding amounts or incentivization programs. It gave us an opportunity to create and in many cases refine our processes, and including creating template documents, the funding agreement, so on and so forth. In terms of the program, I guess I would like to see if we go to a deadline driven model, I'd like to see the program launched a little earlier in the year so that we can get ahead of the construction season and leave a little bit more of a runway for the application process. If we were to do it today or implement the deadline model in 2024, it would just compress my time a little bit. Not so much that I would encourage council to fully not consider a deadline model, but at least if we maintained the original recommendation to go to or maintain an open intake model this year, then it gives me a little bit more runway to update our processes, our center operating procedures, and our communication strategy with Mr. Barnier so that we can kick the program out the door with a deadline next year. I don't have a lot of data or information to say one way or the other whether the community would be more incentivized with a deadline or whether or not it's better to leave it open. I do find it a good opportunity to work with businesses or planning application applicants to at least provide them an additional tool during these kind of ad hoc conversations that we have throughout the year. So saying that, the pros and cons are outlined in the report. I would still like to recommend to council that we proceed as originally designed, and then in 2024 we can make the adjustment where I bring a report reporting on the CIP and recommending the next implementing launch in December of 2024, so that we can make those adjustments in 2025 and work towards a deadline model. It's a bit of a test and learn approach as far as I'm concerned, but if council knows something that I don't in terms of the business community, I'm happy to make the recommendation today to leave it as an open intake throughout the year. Thank you very much.
Hey, I think in your staff report, everybody has a copy in front of them. It's quite a comprehensive breakdown of the pros and cons. Are there any questions for Morgan or comments? Okay, seeing none, then we have a recommendation that council activate the countryside facade and signage, site beautification and accessibility programs for the 2024 SIP program, and further that council directs staff to launch the 2024 Community Improvement Plan program using an open, first in, first out application intake, and further that council directs staff to bring the SIP year in review and 2025 program implementation report to the December 16, 2024 council meeting. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we are now going to go into closed session. So everyone in the gallery and those that are not on council can vacate the room if they so wish before we go into closed. Okay, we have a recommendation that council adjourn to closed session at 8:19 p.m. pursuant to section 2392 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters: litigation or potential litigation, including matters before an administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board, servicing agreement between Adelaide Metcalfe and Strathroy Carrot, amongst other things. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, second by Councillor Brody. All those in favor, and that is